every surgeon I've ever worked with, I've had to prove myself to. I've walked in with a male rep that one has an established relationship with him or whatever, and they bro it up.
You have to walk in there and prove yourself. Sometimes I think, like, depending on who you walk into the OR with male-wise and their personality, that can be this girl's got it, and like they're like your hype man, you know. It can also be the polar opposite. Like,
honestly, I think that women have always been so afraid to just speak their freaking mind. We've been so used to being silenced. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Device Girls. Sarah, it's been a while since we've done a just one-on-one episode together, so
let's
cheers a little bit.
Cheers.
It's just Celsius, don't worry.
Cheers.
Okay.
I'm
gonna take a sip. Now we can get into it.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a pretty interesting topic today.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question for you. Have you ever been called sweetie or felt undermined or undervalued as a woman in healthcare?
So I've accidentally been called like sweetie. I've been called sweetie one time, but yeah, it's a little weird, you know. Sometimes you have to like, don't call me that, you know. But I have a couple friends who have had some actual issues, and I think one really was just a physician who that was kind of their personality. They just called like everybody babe or sweetie or like just kind of like more flamboyant-y type of like. Mm-hmm. But no, it definitely, yeah, it's an uncomfortable situation. What about you?
I have. But anyway, so all that to say with that question is today we want to talk about what it's like being a woman in healthcare. Do we think that we've come a long way in the space with how women are treated versus men? Is it systemic or cultural? So let's dive into it.
Yeah. When talking about this discussion topic, we kind of wanted to do a little research, and so we have a few facts and data points that we found were a little bit interesting. So more than 60% of female physicians report being mistaken for nurses. And if you tune into a couple of our previous episodes, actually a couple of the physicians that we've had on have spoken on that, female physicians, because they're just always mistaken for the nurse or the assistant and not the doctor. Mm-hmm. And
I know someone that's in residency, and she says every time she walks in the OR, it's like, oh, hey, are you our nurse today? And she's like, no, I'm the MD, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know for us, like, I've been mistaken for a nurse. I've been mistaken.
Me too.
You know, like we get mistaken for different roles in the industry. But that's why we're doing what we're doing, actually, because I think there's a lack of awareness around different sides of the industry as well, because we've talked about this before. Like in high school, all you know when you're like graduating and about to go to college, like when it comes to medical and healthcare careers, most people are just like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a nurse or I'm going to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. Like there's really just two pathways, and it's so not true. So
yeah. I was going to say something, but we'll get into that later when we...
Okay. One of our other interesting facts are that male doctors are introduced by title 72% of the time, and versus 49% of the time for female doctors, meaning they get introduced as Dr. So-and-so. Whereas this is Ashley.
That's crazy.
This is Haley, you know.
That's almost like a half of a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Okay, and women in medtech report being interrupted or spoken over in meetings 2 times more than men. Have you experienced that?
So I read that statistic, and I was really trying to rack my brain for a time that I've been spoken over, but honestly, no. Have you?
I think my opinion has been dismissed before.
Yes.
I won't say spoken over, like just blatantly rudely interrupted, but definitely dismissed or, well, I guess in a way, cut off and to just like disagree and like, so yes, I mean, in a sense. And And I don't know if that, I mean, okay, that's hard because I know exactly who I'm talking about and what situation. And he did it to another guy, so I just think it's just his personality. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's still some imbalances in conversations, in roles and meetings and hierarchies, and because there's just, I don't know.
So that's what I was gonna say. Is like, if you want to sit here and talk about, is it systemic or cultural?
Yeah.
For me, I honestly think it's a mix of both, but I think that, yes, I think we've come a long way, but I think it's been that way for so long that I don't even think that half the time it's like intentional. I think it's like ingrained in the culture of like, this is just how we've been doing it for so long. And depending on different people's like upbringings, some men are raised like to treat women a certain way, and others are raised to
also treat women a certain
way.
A different way.
Whether it be positive or negative,
yes.
It has a lot to do with your upbringing and what kind of world you were raised in. And so, like, two, it was a lot of men back in the day. Women weren't doctors. So I think it's like this adjustment for the culture of like, hey, like, we've got to shift things. And they've done a lot to shift. But there actually was one more interesting fact that we found that I still can't believe that that's a problem, and it has to do with the pay gap.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So
and that is
what
true.
Did it say? Like 25% of women are...
Yes. It says women physician earn 25% less on average than male peers.
Still.
This data is from 2023, by the way. But, yeah.
But still, 25%?
Significant. I think, too, there's a difference in there depending on like your role in the company, you know, and who your employer essentially. So I think for us there's a difference in,
well, that's talking about physicians.
Yes.
Doctors.
No, I know,
which is crazy. They're performing the same job.
Correct. 100%. But think about, I mean, we're in the same boat as well, you know.
Do you think that happens in our industry too?
Yes. I just think it is dependent upon, like I said, your employer.
Yeah.
So for us, I mean, I think like corporate companies definitely have a different, I mean, a more set standardized pay flat across the board.
They do.
But I think if you're, you know, if we talk about the distributorship model,
yes,
then, you know, that's kind of like, well, see what you're made of and I'll see what I can give you, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know.
So on that note, do you ever feel like you are questioned more? Like
I have to prove myself more?
Yes.
This is an interesting question. Yes. Yes, because...
I mean, I'll flat out say I do, absolutely.
Yeah. And honestly, here's why. Because as women, right, if a strong, commanding male who's pissed about something, you know, or who has a strong stance on something or what have you, speaks his mind, says his piece, you know, I mean, there may be a difference of opinion in the room, but there's a more like, oh, okay, a response to what that man is saying. It's not viewed as complaining per se. It's like,
okay, we just need to figure out how to solve this.
Yes, and like,
fixed. Yes,
even if it is like I don't like this or it should not be this way, it's like more viewed as like a problem solving or like a okay. Whereas with females, the automatic stigma is like,
you're just complaining.
I'm complaining. Mm-hmm. I'm just whining. No, I'm not, you know? Yeah. So I definitely think that is, that presents a gap for communication and just like the way that we're viewed in certain roles or industries, because we may be get shit done individuals. We may be just as hard workers, drivers, blah, blah, blah. Like across the board in business and skill sets and everything, but that conception of, or that perception of, are we, or we're just complaining, or, you know, that can be viewed and taken differently.
Yeah, but even like, I'm talking like when you walk into the room, okay, like for me,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, to be quite honest, I feel like every surgeon I've ever worked with, I've had to prove myself to. I've walked
for
in
sure.
with a male rep that one has an established relationship with him or whatever, and they bro it up.
Yep.
And that's the other thing that's hard, especially like as reps, is a lot of the
Industry.
surgeons are males, and so it's just easier for the
Yeah.
males to relate to each other. So we've talked about this before, but as a woman, you have to try and find ways to relate to those male surgeons.
Yes.
But I feel like,
In a professional
honestly, there's been maybe 2 or 3 ORs that I've stepped into that I haven't felt like I've had to sit there and prove myself. And what's funny is, and we talk about this all the time, is like, there have been times before where like I know the facts in my head and you're asking me a question, but the way that you are asking me is making me self-doubt and question myself and what I know. So that's been a really hard like thing to overcome, because
Yeah.
like I've told you this so many times, my mind literally blanks at times, and it's because like
It's a stretch. Like
it's
just,
the approach and like the way in which you get asked. And again, I'm not saying it's 100% intentional, because I just think it's how the culture has been for a very long time. But I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel at times that there are doctors that pose questions differently to women than they do to men that they're talking with. Almost, I guess, in a way to make you feel like undermined or, you know, trip you up.
Yeah. And I think, especially in our industry, like, there's some rep on TikTok that's always just talks about, you just have to be pretty to get into this job. Like, which is not true.
No.
Do not let that fool you. And he's clearly joking. But, I mean, if we talk about that, yeah, I mean, there are aesthetically pleasing, you know, like that is.
I have had people tell me before, of course you're in medical sales. Everybody in medical sales is good looking or whatever. I'm like, okay.
Yes. And I think that, like, I definitely felt as though when I was, you know, long blonde hair, my extensions, like, was fresh Botox, you know, just the whole nines, right? That there's this just automatic, oh, who's this blonde ditz that's walking into this room? And is there actually like value and knowledge and skill, you know, on the inside?
But I'll tell you what,
I love proving them
it
wrong.
feels real good.
Oh yeah.
When they ask you something or you're the one saving the day and you're like, huh, bet you didn't think that I could do that, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I got brains too.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, we don't walk around with like our degrees on our forehead, but
Oh no.
I majored in biomedical sciences, dude. Like, I know a little bit,
Yeah.
a lot about this stuff, whether we sit and have a discussion about it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm not saying I'm super smart, but like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
no, I mean, I
But-
I do love when we're able to overcome some of that. And people, physicians, surgeons, doctors, like they start to see, okay,
Yeah.
this girl's got grit, she's got grind, she's a
Yep.
hard worker, and she knows her shit. Like, it's rewarding, you know?
Yeah.
But you have to walk in there and prove yourself. And sometimes I think, like, depending on who you walk into the OR with male-wise and their personality, that can be this girl's got it, and like they're like your hype man, you know, and hype wingman. But it can also be the polar opposite, like you've said you've experienced of just like, who's this with you? Why is she following you? You know, like, what is she doing? You know.
Also, it's not even something that comes from mainly the men all the time. It's, we've talked about this before, the other women, and we won't go down this rabbit hole again, but that's another factor. Like, you walk into the nurses like, who's this? had to prove yourself that way to the nurse.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to do that plenty of times.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Do you feel as though you see progression in your workplace and that it's pretty, like, unbiased?
For the most part. I mean, well, I don't know.
Like, and I'm not saying like your specific employer. I'm just saying like your hospital system, your like community.
That's what I'm trying to think about right now because
like what's the culture? Because we're in different markets, so
I don't know. It's so hard for me because like a lot of the people that I work with all of the time. I mean, like hospital wise, and so like for me, I'm like everybody's bestie up there. I'm just like, hey, whatever. But I try to assess like how they react when like a new rep walks in or whatever, and that's why like for me, I always, especially if it's a woman, I'm just like super duper helpful. Like if she asks me questions, I'm like, yeah, this is here. Like you go here for this, go print your badge here. Like just try to be super helpful because I know how like daunting it can be. But recently there was like a newer female rep, and I'm just trying to like see how they're treating her. I honestly don't have a lot of problems like where I'm at. But anyway, what about you? Going on a tangent here.
Yes, I think there's room for growth always. Yeah, I mean, and we're, in the South. The South. Is this the South?
We're in Texas, baby. In the country.
I mean, this isn't as south as we could go, but
you're
it's
in
south
the West.
Yeah, we're in the wild friggin' West here.
The wild, wild West.
Anyways, so, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we're behind the curve on lots of things, just being a rural West Texas community trying to catch up. But I think there's definitely room for progression. Yeah.
In what ways could we progress?
Okay. Ooh, well, Haley, in what ways can we progress?
Well, okay, this is what's hard. Like what I was talking about earlier. Because I do remember like you and I were discussing like, okay, well, what if there was one policy you could put into place if you were running a hospital or a company that would be helpful to women, what would it be? And honestly, I feel like there have been a lot of like systemic changes made that way with like policies and whatnot, but whether people actually follow them or not, and like, let's be quite honest, an issue only becomes an issue to HR if it gets brought up.
That's true.
And so, like, I'll be quite honest, for me, there's probably a lot of things have been said to me that I should probably take to HR.
That's true.
But for me, I have thick skin and I just laugh it off and I move on with it. But
yeah, that's why when you ask me that question, I'm like, oof.
That's why I feel like if you're going to work in healthcare, it's kind of, and I'm not saying that this is right, but you kind of just have to realize that you need to have thick skin and just move along because it's just the culture. So I think it comes down to more of a culture. And I think that it is starting to shift, and I think it will continue to shift because there are so many more women getting into medicine and that are practicing physicians and nurse pracs and PAs. So I think it's definitely starting to like shift a bit. But I just don't know, like, putting a policy in place. Okay, but like what
You're right.
What's going to get brought up?
An issue doesn't become an issue to HR until someone brings it up. Yeah. So what would you want to teach the next generation of women in healthcare?
Of women in healthcare? Yeah. Honestly, I think that women have always been so afraid to just speak their freaking mind, like you were talking about earlier. But, like, we've been so used to being silenced. And I think that's one thing I love just about, like, you and I doing, like, this podcast, too, is, like, no, you're not going to tell me to be quiet. We're going to speak our freaking mind, okay? No, but for real, speak your mind. I think that, like I said, I think it's evolving, and with women, like, stepping in and taking on those bigger roles, they're able to, like, put their opinions out there, stand their ground on the things that they believe in. And I think that women bring a lot of, like, I don't want to say more creative ideas to the table, but like different ideas. Men are more logical thinkers. Women are more emotional at times, but they can also be more creative or better at communication, things like that. So I would just say, like, believe what you believe, stand firm on it, stand your ground. I mean, I know you and I have talked about this even for like some of the surgeons that we work around of like, they're navigating these things, but I think as more women come in too, and there's more of a push. So yeah, what about you?
No, I definitely agree with that. I think that it's very important for the next generation to be confident in yourself, you know, like
I think that's one of the biggest things is confidence.
Yeah, know who you are, know what you bring to the table. Don't be lazy, do work hard, and be good at your job, and don't be afraid to speak up. Like you said, I mean, it is really important but I think that's built in through confidence and you having the courage to do that. And so be excited about what you're doing and be bold, and because those are the people that influence the change and that change the culture, that change policies, are the ones that aren't afraid to speak out, aren't afraid to be bold and are confident in themselves and have courage. So I just think that is something, if you're looking for that confidence in coming from other people in this system, you're not going to find that. I mean, you're just not going to have consistency of somebody always building you up or in this space. And so you just have to be really strong in who you are and build up your internal confidence so that way you can handle it all. And I think that is really what can influence the next round, I guess you say, or evolution of change in healthcare. Yes, generation
of healthcare.
Healthcare. So, yeah, that's my advice. What do you guys think? We would love to know your thoughts. So DM us, tell us a story. Maybe we'll feature it on the podcast because we'd love to kind of deep dive into more personal experiences with you guys. So
tune in into our next episode.